Our group's focus for this video is to analyze the parent relationships between Hamlet and his parents, and Polonius and his children, Ophelia and Laertes. We're analyzing them because the relationships are basically what the story is built on, and the events that happen before and during the story kind of cause the relationship to kind of go into chaos a little bit, and a lot of relationships start falling apart. And so we want to analyze and show how those relationships develop and change and help people better understand it. And that in a way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself clearly, as it behooves my daughter and your honor. What is between you? Give me the truth.
He hath, my lord, laid to me many tenders of his affection to me.
Affections? Poh, you speak like a green girl, unfit in perilous circumstances. Do you believe these tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Mary, I will teach you. Think yourself a baby that you have taken these tenders for pay, when they are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly, or you'll tend to me a fool.
My lord, he hath supported me with love and honorable fashion.
Aye, fashions you may call it. Go to.
And hath given countess to his speech, my lord, with almost all the holy bowels of heaven.
Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know, when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul lends to the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promises as it is a making, you must take it not for fire. From this time, be something scanter of your maiden presence. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of the dye which their investments show, but more implorations of unholy suits, breathing like unsanctified and porous pods, the better to beguile. This for all, I would not in plain terms from this time forth have you so slander any moment of leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look into it. I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
I think that he was trying to kind of create a bad reputation for his son, maybe?
To help his son survive in the real world. Because his son is still in school, so he's still learning stuff, but everybody knows that in school you don't learn about how real life actually works.
Yeah,
you have to go out there and
life experience.
Yeah. I guess that's what he's trying to have Ronaldo do for Laertes.
Look you, sir. Inquire me first what gangsters are in Paris, and how and who, what means, and where they keep what company at what expense. And from this encompassment and drift of questions, that you find that ye do know my son. Come you nearer, then your particular demands will touch it, as thus I know his father and his friends, and impart him.
Very well, my lord.
And impart him, but you may say not very well, for he is but if it be he I mean, he is wild and addicted so and so, and there you may put on him what forgeries you may please, but none so rank that may dishonor him. But such wanton, wild, and usual slips are companions noted and most known to youth and liberty.
That's gaming, my lord?
Aye, or drinking, swearing, quarreling, driving, you may go so far.
But my lord, that would dishonor him.
Faith, no, you may season it as a charge, but do not put another scandal on him that he is open to inconsistency. That is not my meaning. But speak his faults so quaintly that they may seem the taints of liberty. Maybe Polonius is trying to see maybe if these faults that he's putting on his son are real. Like if he's sending his servants to go talk with people who know about him, maybe he's trying to see, say that he has all these faults, and the people might tell you, oh yeah, totally, or really, I've never heard of that. So maybe it could be like he's trying to find out his son's faults by he's putting him out there, but it's not like always true, and he's kind of trying to test the water on that one.
I think for that's really changed over the years, because nowadays parents want to keep us safe inside, and they won't let us do anything until we're older. But he just sets it out and has horrible things be said about him.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that's similar from how being the overprotective thing from now and then, how Ophelia, Polonius was really protective over her because how she was talking about Hamlet wanting to be with him and all that, and he was like, no, you can't, and then saying all those kind of disrespecting her in a way because she was like talking about Hamlet, and then he was like, "Don't see you anymore," and all that, and then later she played him, and then just.
And like even if Ophelia was kind of unsure of her feeling for him, so it seemed like even if she did like Hamlet, her father didn't really give her a choice.
Yeah.
So she might have been a little reluctant to kind of accept it right away, but in the end she still ends up obeying her father, which is one of the primary things of what happened back then is like, you know, you obeyed no matter what. So even if they objected, it's still like eventually they gave in because they're their parents. What can they do, really?
Yeah, during that time, girls are supposed to be obedient and follow every rule.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I guess if she does it, and if Polonius doesn't put her back in his place, like when the world sees her, they'll be like, "Oh, her parents are like bad things."
Yeah, that's what like the view of olden days was. Nowadays, I wouldn't say parents are less strict. I just think that maybe some parents might be have gotten a little more lenient because the teenagers they are objecting much more. They're more like, you know, you can't really rule me. I own my own life, kind of thing. And even though that's not always completely true, like the parents still own you for the first couple years of your life, and yet teenagers nowadays are like, you know, you don't own me. I can do whatever I want, kind of thing. So it's like we've kind of lost what happened in the past. It's like that way of like respect towards our parents and stuff.
Revenge is foul and most unnatural murder. Murder? Murder most foul, as in the best it is, but this most foul, strange, and unnatural.
Shakespeare's time that he wrote this, the justice system wasn't as efficient as ours today. Like, in the olden times, killing the king would be like a huge crime, and if you think about it, nobody actually like looked into his death, so then Claudius got away with murder.
So the justice system thing. I was thinking that Hamlet kind of represents that justice, you know? That crime that was committed, Hamlet's the justice, right? And then Hamlet's ghost, because the ghost is trying to get Hamlet to murder Claudius, right? So the ghost kind of represents like the witness, like that's the one, that's the criminal, like charge him. And it's kind of like this whole court system going. And even though it's the father and the son, right? It's still that the ghost is helping the son figure out his murder, so they kind of link together.
Yeah, and like even though Hamlet like heard from the ghost himself, he's like, "Well, I need evidence for myself," and he even went as far as to like make that whole play thing happen to test Claudius to get evidence. So he didn't just go full vigilante; he actually did set up a sort of justice like system.
Yeah, with Hamlet prolonging like when to like finally kill Claudius, I think it's because like he still have all that like grief with him. I mean, is it really a good idea to tell somebody to kill somebody right now when you're like really sad and depressed? I don't think so.
Well, it's the father-son thing. It's like the father's like, avenge me. Like, you just can't let him get away with it. He killed me. He killed your father. So it's kind of like the father's talking to the son as an adult now. Because instead of treating him like a child, like his mom or Claudius, the father's now like, oh, Hamlet is a 30-year-old adult. He can offend for himself. So he's the one saying, you are in charge now. You're in charge, and you gotta help me with the murder of Claudius.
Well, even in the scene, the father says, "If thou chooses to pursue this act," I mean, he's still giving him an option. Granted, he sort of wants him to take a certain path, but the option's still there, and it's up to Hamlet to make that decision. So, I mean, like he makes a pretty adult decision of like to take it on, and then like, you know, like we said, the whole justice thing.
Yeah.
Haste me to know it, with wings as swift as meditation and the thoughts of love, may sweep to my revenge.
Now, Hamlet, here, 'tis given out that sleeping in my orchard, a serpent stung me. So the whole ear of Denmark is by a forced process of my death, rankly abused. But know, thou noble youth, the serpent that did sting thy father's life, now wears his crown.
Oh horrible, most horrible.
If thou hast nature in thee, bear it not. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. But howsoever thou pursuest this act, take not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against what thy mother ought. Let her to heaven, and to those things that in her bosom lodge to prick and sting her. Fare thee well at once. The glowworm shows the matin to be near, and gains begins to pale his ineffectual fire. Adieu. Remember me!
Oh, all you host of heaven, O earth. What else? And shall I couple hell? Hold my heart.
And he's like talking about, oh earth, like all you host of heaven, oh earth, what else? Like what else can you throw my way? Because even though his dead father comes back to him and answers a lot of questions, Hamlet is still like, oh, now he's giving me a quest. I can't even grieve for him. Instead, I have to do this long quest. I really think he's just talking about like, oh, hold my heart. Like I can't take anymore, you know.
Well, also throughout the Ghost's speech, he's telling Hamlet like not to worry that much for him, and instead he's trying to get him to do the act of murdering.
You are the queen, your husband's brother's wife. And would it were not so, you are my mother.
Nay then, I'll set you to those that can speak.
Come, and sit you down. You will not budge. You go not till I set you up a glass, so you may see the inmost part of you.
What wilt thou do? Wilt thou not murder me?
Leave the ring in your hand, please. Sit down, and let me wring your heart. For so I shall, if it be made of penetrable stuff.
It shows how their relationships are in conflict at the moment, or like how this event has caused kind of
Their relationship to drift apart.
yeah, and like they don't quite understand each other, so their relationship is kind of falling apart. They just don't. They're drifting apart, and they're just like they can't understand each other, so they.
So I can kind of see how they wouldn't understand because when the queen at the end scene we did remember the queen is kind of like, oh Hamlet, don't speak no more, stop talking, you just are causing problems because I'm trying to explain this to you, and Hamlet's like, no, you are like a crook, you're yeah.
If damn custom had not brazened it, that proof and bulwark against sense.
What have I done that thou wag thy tongue in noise so rude against me?
Such an act that blurs. Oh, such a deed, as from the body contraction plucks the very soul, and sweet religion makes a raspity of words. Heaven's face doth glow, ye, this solidity and compound mass, with tristful visage, as against the doom, is thought sick at the act.
Even though the mom abruptly married Claudius after her late husband's death, like she doesn't acknowledge what she did wrong to Hamlet, and that like made him like emotion state like worse.
Yeah, made him probably more angry because it's like, why don't you realize what you did?
Just the reaction between Hamlet and his mother, it's like, okay, he kind of treats her all right in the beginning, but then towards the end, he gets really like angry, like he's kind of throwing a temper tantrum. And I think people get the wrong idea about his age by that, because he's acting younger. He's acting like a little kid. He's not getting what he wants, and he's telling his mom off. And so that's why I think that maybe people get the wrong idea about his age. And how his mother treats him, she kind of treats him as a child, in a sense. Like, oh, don't wag thy tongue at me, you know?
Yeah.
And Hamlet's just like, Hamlet just acts like any normal kid, you know?
Yeah. He acts probably more like a teenager, but
I see him! Charge!
There's Hamlet! Yes, we found Hamlet!